talk today about the hazards about cell phones and about your children. Let me ask you this. If you knew by using a cell phone and putting it up to a child's ear that could lead to producing cancer cells, would you let them do it? Now, if we look in the past, we did not have these types of cells. We had wireless and we've had phones that were of small value and not big batteries. But if you notice now, we have these iPhones. Now, with this being said, as these modalities have started to increase, you notice all of them give off heat. Well, anything that gives off heat gives off radiation. It's a well-known thing. All batteries give off radiation. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is about three things. About how DNA can be damaged by electromagnetic radiation. That is what's being put off by your cell phones. How actually a child, because of the smaller size, the skull size and everything, how that can double up on the dosage that goes to their growing organs, their brain to be in fact, okay? And also what we can do to remedy this kind of situation. Now, I feel qualified to bring this to you because I've been doing this for over 30 years and been in research a little bit longer than that. And really have looked at this as we've gone through the technologies. And when we first had our wireless phones, that wasn't like the cell phones. And then we started coming with these lithium batteries. Well, they actually put out more radiation. So those three areas we're going to go over. First, the DNA breakage. Second, basically how it hinders children. And third, what can we do to remedy it? Now, going to the first area, when you talk about cell structure and DNA, electromagnetic radiation, which is wave radiation, is known to induce damage. In 2011, there was a doctor, Dr. Ray, with the neuroscience of children, that actually had an article that went over and talked about people that have used cell phones actually now have had a higher grade of incidence of brain tumors, okay? And then that was followed up by Dr. Volkar in 2011, and he basically led the way in talking about heavy mitosis cells, which is young people, because before the age of 12, actually our mitosis and our cell structure is going very, very fast. That makes it very damaging when you have electromagnetic rays strike the DNA, causing damage which can down the line lead to cancer. And he was very, very prominent about explaining this to people. Now, understanding that radiation does cause damage to your cell structure, it's important to understand this new technology, what it's actually doing. When you think about kids and their cell structure, and that's where we're shifting to next, we have to look at the size of the skull. There's been a study that was done by some very prominent physicians. It was in Global Health Research, and basically in 2009, that talked about the fact that if people that have been using cell phones for 25 years or wireless phones have a 5% increase in having brain tumors. Now, a lot of this you're not going to see because the public doesn't really let this out because we're driving this force of Verizon and AT&T, and they're doing a lot of business, and this is a billion-dollar industry. So you're not going to hear about this kind of stuff. You're not going to hear about the fact that that heat that comes out of the phone is damaging to the pinna of the ear, and that fold right there. Now, as we go forward, there are studies that are being done with different types of cadaver size. And those cadaver sizes were based upon 14, and actually went down to the fact, quoted in an article, which I can't remember at this moment, that basically they were receiving 2.1 higher dose levels just to the pinna of a child's ear by using these iPhones. So as you go through this, you can see that you have to have something come about so we can go ahead and change the dosage these patients or these kids are receiving from their phones and change the way they use the phones. So what would be the best method to do such? Well, number one, having that phone right up against the ear, of course, you're getting a heavy dosage of electromagnetic right to the ear. Having it back off and use a speaker is a very good way to lower that dosage. Number two, the time restraints. The time restraints are very important. Dr. Krenz basically in an article in 2005 stated the fact that if we don't do this, that actually the dosages are going to exceed 2.5% higher just for children, which means we can see a new etiology of brain tumors down the line. So in conclusion, when we're talking about this, I've kind of brought to your attention that there is an issue with these phones, the new iPhones, and the fact that they cause hazard to kids. There's too much radiation coming out. I've kind of gone over my background and talked about the fact that I have done research in this area. I do understand the medical dosimetry, which is the absorption rate of radiation into the tissue, our tissue and our children's tissue. I've also brought up to you different ways that we can control this, basically by understanding the DNA breakage, by understanding that children are heavy mitoses and they absorb more radiation. And the third, by giving you alternatives on how to lower that dose by having the children hold it away from them in a shorter period of time. Now, when you get further ahead, there's a Dr. Davis in 2016 in an article that had to do with Environmental Trust Unit. And basically what they said is that if you look at the iPhone when they first came out, you would always see an area where they would talk about instruction and radiation levels. Well, as the phone started getting bigger, that kind of DC'd. You don't see it anymore because they exceeded the rate of the FCC on the levels which are allowed to be permitted off of these phones. Knowing that, they don't really want you to know the levels because that would deter from selling them and your children using them. Now, a lot of this stuff we've talked about, you can go online, but you're going to see biased and non-biased views, of course. But a lot of it really is like a hidden secret. Until we have more studies, until really the public gets more involved and the SEC does more studies, you're really not going to hear this until really you start seeing the tumor start to evolve in children. Thank you very much.